This was meant to be Prince Harry's defining moment. The courtroom appearance that would finally, once and for all, validate everything he has been saying for years. The big stand against the British tabloids. The moment where he would appear calm, credible, and in control. But what many observers felt they witnessed instead was something very different. A hearing that was expected to project authority and clarity instead unfolded in a way that raised eyebrows, triggered intense online reaction, and left critics openly questioning whether this legal strategy has gone completely off the rails. From the moment Harry entered the High Court, expectations were sky high. This case has been framed by supporters as a long overdue reckoning with the media, and by critics as yet another chapter in an ongoing personal battle that keeps spilling into the public arena. Either way, this appearance mattered. And that's why the reaction to what followed has been so strong. Rather than delivering tightly focused answers, Harry's testimony appeared, to many watching, emotionally charged and occasionally unfocused. Instead of letting his legal team carry the weight of the argument, he often seemed eager to push back directly, offering explanations that went beyond the questions asked. In any courtroom, that's risky. In a High Court case dealing with complex media law, it's especially so. Multiple reports indicate that the judge intervened several times to remind Harry of the proper process. Not as a rebuke, but as guidance. The message was simple: answer the question and allow your legal representatives to argue the case. To seasoned legal observers, those moments were significant. Judges don't interrupt lightly, and repeated interventions tend to signal concern about how testimony is unfolding. What stood out to commentators wasn't just that the judge stepped in, but how often it happened. That frequency alone fueled discussion across UK, US, and Australian media circles. Analysts noted that Harry appeared determined to defend his position personally, rather than relying on legal structure. While that may feel emotionally justified, courtrooms don't operate on emotion. They operate on precision. This case itself is not small. It involves allegations related to media practices stretching back years, with potentially enormous financial consequences. The stakes are high, and so expectations of discipline are even higher. Observers expected Harry to arrive prepared, restrained, and strategically advised. Instead, many felt he came across as reactive, defensive, and visibly unsettled. One of the most discussed moments was when Harry referenced the emotional impact of press coverage on his wife. On a human level, that sentiment is understandable. However, from a strictly legal perspective, commentators were quick to point out that the time frame of the case predates his relationship with Meghan Markle. That disconnect became a focal point of discussion, not because of Meghan herself, but because it muddied the legal narrative. Legal experts commenting in the press noted that courts focus heavily on relevance. When testimony drifts into areas not directly tied to the claims being assessed, it can weaken overall credibility. That doesn't mean emotion has no place, but it does mean timing and context matter. In this instance, critics argued that the emotional emphasis distracted from the evidentiary core of the case. Meanwhile, the optics surrounding the hearing became impossible to ignore. Harry appeared in court without visible support from family or close allies. At the same time, reports circulated that Meghan was continuing her regular activities in California. Whether fair or not, public perception is shaped by contrast, and the contrast here became part of the story. Social media reactions picked up on it instantly. Comments ranged from sympathy to skepticism, with many questioning why such a pivotal moment appeared to be navigated so independently. For a couple that has long presented a united public front, the separation in this moment stood out. Another major issue raised during testimony involved Harry's past relationship with the media itself. Defense lawyers highlighted instances suggesting that his interactions with journalists were not always adversarial. Allegations surfaced that Harry may have engaged directly with reporters socially during the very period now under scrutiny. While Harry disputed these characterizations, the suggestion alone complicated the narrative. From a public perception standpoint, this matters. The central argument of the case relies heavily on portraying Harry as a consistent victim of hostile media practices. Any indication that the relationship was, at times, cooperative or mutually beneficial introduces nuance, and nuance can be damaging in cases built on clear victim-villain framing. Then there was the issue of personal disclosures. Critics were quick to draw comparisons between Harry's courtroom complaints about privacy and his past decisions to share highly personal details through books, documentaries, and interviews. This contrast has been a recurring theme in public debate for years, and the courtroom appearance reignited it. Again, this isn't about legality so much as credibility. Courts may rule on evidence, but public opinion reacts to consistency. Many commentators argued that it's difficult to claim total opposition to media exposure while simultaneously profiting from deeply personal storytelling. Whether that argument is fair or not, it remains powerful. As the hearing progressed, attention turned to Harry's legal team. Reports began circulating that some advisors were distancing themselves or expressing concern about the direction of the case. To be clear, no official statements confirmed a collapse of representation. However, even the suggestion of internal unease was enough to intensify scrutiny. Legal analysts explained that when clients deviate from strategy or insist on pursuing arguments against advice, tensions can emerge. That doesn't mean wrongdoing, but it does suggest instability. And instability is rarely an asset in high-stakes litigation. The defense, by contrast, appeared calm and methodical. Observers noted their reliance on documentation, timelines, and sourcing. Rather than matching emotional energy, they allowed gaps in testimony to speak for themselves. In legal settings, that approach often proves effective. Online commentary reflected this imbalance. Many viewers described the proceedings as a mismatch between emotion and structure. While Harry spoke passionately about perceived injustices, the defense anchored their questions in technical detail. The difference in tone was striking. Public reaction followed predictable lines. Supporters argued that Harry's emotional responses underscored the depth of harm caused by years of press intrusion. Critics countered that feelings, however genuine, cannot substitute for proof. Neutral observers simply questioned whether this case had been strategically sound from the beginning. Broader implications quickly entered the conversation. Commentators began discussing relevance, influence, and power. Harry, once shielded by the royal institution, now operates independently. Without palace advisors smoothing edges and controlling narratives, missteps are more visible and less forgiving. Comparisons with other royals inevitably surfaced. William and Catherine were frequently cited as contrasts, not because of personal virtue, but because of approach. Their public strategy has been quiet, disciplined, and institution-focused. They rarely explain themselves, and they almost never litigate publicly. That contrast has shaped perception. Financial implications also loom large. If the case fails, the costs could be substantial. Legal fees in cases of this scale are immense, and losing parties often face responsibility for both sides. Analysts have speculated that this risk may be driving the intensity behind Harry's courtroom approach. By the end of the hearing day, the dominant takeaway wasn't clarity or vindication, it was uncertainty. Commentators noted that Harry appeared to leave court carrying more questions than answers. The confidence that once surrounded this lawsuit seemed to have softened. Importantly, none of this determines the legal outcome. Courts rule on law, not commentary. But perception matters, especially for public figures whose influence depends on trust. And right now, trust appears fractured. This case was meant to reclaim narrative control. Instead, many feel it highlighted the difficulty of fighting institutions while simultaneously relying on public sympathy. The contradictions, fair or not, have become impossible to ignore. The most striking element of all may be this. Harry seems deeply convinced of his position, yet increasingly isolated in advancing it. When judges caution restraint, lawyers appear uneasy, and public reaction turns skeptical, it raises a fundamental question. Is this about justice, or is it about being heard? That question now hangs over the entire case. And so the story continues, not as a clear-cut legal battle, but as a complex mix of emotion, history, power, and public expectation. Whether Harry ultimately wins or loses in court, the reputational consequences are already unfolding in real time. Now I want to hear from you. If you're watching from the UK or Australia, do you think Prince Harry is right to keep pushing this fight? Or has the strategy done more harm than good? Has public sympathy shifted, or is this simply another chapter in a long-running media war? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this breakdown helped you see the situation more clearly, give the video a like, share it with someone who follows royal news, and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth royal commentary. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next, because this story is far from finished.